to Vienna Spring Break 2025 here for the first game of the day. You haven't missed much so far in this game. We've just had the pull, and there was the first turnover. Outsisterz from Slovakia. Outsisters. Sorry, we keep saying Outsisterz. Well, there was some debate before the stream as to what this team was called. It's Outsisters. That is the name that is written on the schedule. We really should have read that in more detail. Versus the U20 Austrian women's team. My name's Lee Burgess. Joined alongside me is John Doherty for this final group game in the women's division. There's two women's pools at this tournament. One of them has 5 teams, the other has 4 teams, so there's an extra round in this group that we need to finish before we can get into semis. Outsisters working nicely down this near sideline. That throw's just a bit too high though.
Yeah, both these teams, their last game of the group, and neither of them able to progress to the later rounds, so this one is more for reps.
So Austria centering the disc and then putting it too high, picked off by Kutuna even. Looking for the deep shot. Sends it. Some defensive pressure. Did just enough.
Yeah, it was a pretty good option, I think. The hooker there, one of the main players on this team. Not sure of her name, but I've seen a lot of her playing in the Czech Republic, even though she's playing with the Slovakian team today.
And first throw turnover for Austria. This is perfect field position for Outsisters, and they convert in one pass. Nicely done.
Yeah, and just yesterday on the results, Outsisters a bit unfortunate to not be in contention for the later stage of this tournament. They had a universe point loss to, I believe it's Zurich Ultimate Swarm, and then they lost to Spice, who won the group 15-10. For the under-20s, the Austrians against Spice, they lost 15-4, and they lost 13-6 against Zurich Ultimate Swarm. The Austrians preparing for I believe it's the European Junior Ultimate Championships. I believe it's actually in Slovakia this year. I think it's the first week of August, and Outsisters using this as I believe it's their first tournament of the season. Last year was their first season involved in the EUS season. Didn't get any wins last year, but looking to build on last season.
Yeah, they're not using this tournament for ranking points for ECS. That's all the teams in the other group are playing for ranking. So another early turnover for Austria gifts good field position for Outsisters.
Both these teams just struggling to get the disc get going this morning. A couple of errors. The ground it's been raining here. Maybe players a little bit tired from yesterday, but like we said, this game is not going to impact the outcome of who makes it to the semis. So both teams a bit less to lose in this game.
Yeah, maybe both teams feeling a bit too relaxed this early morning game. Zone now from Outsisters. This has allowed Austria to at least throw a few easy passes and get some reps in it, just moving the disc around, but that was straight to a defender. Outsisters still working around the back. That's just not in. Yeah, I think I agree. I think the back foot was not quite in the end zone on the catch. That one's in though. Potentially. No. Was that a drop or was she out?
I think she might have just potential like ground strip. I think she initially had it, I think, and then just fell, I think, and wasn't able to hold on to it. I think she might have been in at the start, but not 100% sure.
So another chance for Austria to try and work through this zone. Hammer over the top. love the intent. Always good to see some overheads against zones when there's no wind. Upline shot. That one's in. And Outsisters get another point on the board.
Yeah, good to see the hammer look there. Sometimes teams, when they're stuck in their own end zone, maybe on a junior level, they might be less confident with those throws. And I think you have to show that you're willing to take some shots over a zone to get the rest of the zone to actually respect you. Otherwise, you just invite the pressure on where perhaps the deeps and the wings will start pushing in more. So showing that hammer option early, even though it was a turnover, it's at least going to force the zone to respect you for the rest of the game, knowing that you're capable of making those throws. It didn't work out this time, but again, this is probably a good time if Austria, if you asked them, I think this would be a time where they'd be happy to have some mistakes against zone, because obviously they're not looking to have their big results for maybe another 3-4 months when they're in, I believe it's Ternava, and the first weekend of August.
Yeah, I completely agree. This game is all about reps for Austria. And if they can get some practice playing against various different looks, then I think the coaches will be fairly happy regardless of the outcome. So I don't know if they're deliberately trying to play a dominated set here, but it looked for a moment like it was just 3 players in the back working it, but Outsisters with the nice run-through block. And leading shot into the end zone. There's going to be some discussion. No, it is called a goal. It looks like a bit of a jump in from out.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I'm not sure if she was in, but players on the field pretty happy with it. Yeah, I think at the start there, the cutters for Austria, they looked pretty stationary in the flat stack. There was one cutter moving, maybe they were calling a play, but I think that's just something at juniors. I'm not sure how much experience is on this team, but normally if it's a less experienced team, you're normally going to have your more reliable players in the handler position earlier, and often in junior divisions, cutters can be a lot more newer players, so perhaps maybe a little intimidated sometimes it can be to make those first cuts, especially if you feel you have 3 dominant handlers. And I think when you look at the matchups, I feel the Slovakian team probably has a bit of a height and speed advantage, so maybe some of them cutters just worried about cutting under and inviting in a tough matchup on defense, trusting their handlers to perhaps try and get the disc moving for them first.
So 3-0 for Outsisters. Is this the weakest pull of the game so far?
Perhaps.
The pulls previously have been pretty good.
Yeah.
That one only just going past the halfway mark. So more zone from Outsisters. Again, if I was coaching this Austria U20 team, I'd be very pleased to see it as a chance to get more reps.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate there. It looked like they were starting to move the disc a bit more confidently, and just a bit of a miscommunication or a bit of a misthrow just to get that turnover.
So Outsisters, very interesting offensive look there. We had one deep cut.
Yeah, it's pretty
way too early. The throw was not really that interested in throwing it.
It's basically the opposite, or almost the same as what we saw with the Austrians in the last point, where except their first cut moved slightly under, and this one I think it was maybe a kind of a clear isolation play. The player defensive pressure put enough pressure on it to force the Outsisters player to go up early and miss the disc.
But my favorite thing about that play was 2 of the cutters in the stack just pointing at the reset and not moving, but the thrower was not interested. Oh, that's a Callahan. Outsisters making plays, and that was Kutner again with the score.
Yeah, the second turnover by the Austrian offense in front of their end zone. The first one was not Callahan, the second one was close enough, but it's you could argue it 2 ways. You could say one thing, it's they need to watch out for when they're throwing dumps, but the second thing you can say is they're not afraid to look at dumps in perhaps tighter spots. But again, maybe it's just getting used to the speed of the game. Like I said, this Outsisters team is they seem pretty athletic. I know last year at in the UCS season, they actually all their losses were blowouts, but like I think when I look at the group, I see that there's a lot of potential. They have the athletic side of the game down, so I think once it looks like they have a coach now as well. So I think once they get a bit more time together, I think maybe might not be this season, but in the coming seasons, I imagine they're going to be a much more competitive team than they were last season.
So we're
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And traded to X and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
So 4-0 here in this final group stage game. Austria U20s looking to just get some more confidence in this game. I feel they've been totally shut down by Outsisters so far. Outsisters have been the more athletic team and the more clinical, just punishing the mistakes from Austria. But before the slightly unfortunate Callahan from Austria, we did see some signs of more confident disc movement.
Yeah, it looked like they were getting to this movement between their handlers a bit more, and yeah, like they said, they called the timeout there. Looks like they have a pretty experienced coaching setup, so let's see if they can implement some of those adjustments that they were just told about.
So Outsisters sticking to the zone. I'd quite like to see the Austrians spread out a bit and look for those hammers again. We saw one hammer. Didn't come off. Bit of a deep shot. Nicely reeled in.
That initiative and then just beat you up line. So I'm sure they'll be happy to have a lot of this on footage to look back at. And that's one of the advantages of when you're coaching a junior team. Normally a lot of the mistakes are things that you can point out very easy. And you can get a lot of improvement in a very short time. So things like this will help them a lot, especially just to get a stream game. Hopefully it'll be a competitive one. And yeah, like I said, yesterday they had some tough losses, kind of big margins. And obviously it's good to get a stream game today now that they've had some games yesterday to figure things out. So this should be a really beneficial game for them to go back and watch after.
Decent pull, goes near the sideline. And zone again. It's been working well for Outsisters. So the receivers downfield are pretty spread out. But the handlers in the backfield can't work it amongst themselves. I kind of wanted to see another hammer attempt.
There you go.
Oh, but Outsisters will give it to us. Not quite in the end zone just yet. Still not quite in. That one is, though. And Michaela Puankova with the score, 6-1.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think some of the overhead options might have been needed there. I think the Outsisters zone was kind of spread out. It looked like there was two players maybe free on the wings. So potentially a crossfield blade, backhand, or maybe some overheads. I do think they had two players wide. but again, it might just be a case of some of the players maybe not so certain of taking those options. But again, if they do have players that do have those throws, maybe they want to try and get that player back into the handler space if they're not already handling, or just get them on the disc more and look to make those throws. But again, they seem relatively confident to swing it back and forth. And I think just a couple of little improvements, they'll be able to hold on to the disc more. And if the disc dries up a little bit, maybe that's a factor as well. They might be able to get some more of those aggressive shots. I think at the moment the slippy disc maybe might also be making the players a bit less confident of taking some of those more aggressive shots.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't help. But the one time they did score against this Outsister zone, it was a deep shot early on to Pia Fuchstek. She's not on the pitch for this point, but maybe that's a sign that swinging back and forth between the handlers, which hasn't really been working for them, isn't really the way to go, and they should look for some more aggressive shots early on. Oh, fantastic layout grab. Mia Meister. Highlight clip for you. Good fake. Making the zone commit to that far side and then attacking this near side, but unfortunate one-handed drop.
Yeah, they were just starting to get the disc moving there. That was a bit unfortunate, but again, fantastic layout to save the play earlier in the point.
Nice inside forehand breakthrough. Looking very static on offense. And there's the upline cut into the front cone. That's another score for Outsisters. So continuing to dominate this game. I think the thing that's really killing Austria at this point is simple throwing errors in the backfield. That was an unfortunate one-handed drop on that final turnover for them, but the disc at that range shouldn't be going that high. They really should just be hitting very static on offense. Short throws.
Yeah, I think a small bit of it was maybe they finally felt like they were starting to actually make some progress. It's the first time in a while where it's looked like the handlers have been actually looking like they will really progress the disc, and perhaps they maybe got a little bit overexcited, slightly rushed it a bit. The one time they have gotten it downfield to the cutters against the zone, that was the score that they got, and it was their best offensive point so far. Also on the score for Outsisters, a bit unfortunate, but good to see an attempted switch from the handler defenders. If the disc had floated a bit more, I think they might have been able to get a block on that throw with the switch. So even though they conceded the point, you can see that there's signs of good things happening on both sides of the disc. So again, plenty of time left in this game to keep working on these things, and if Outsisters here can get a break, I believe this would be for half. Austrians will be wanting to stop that from happening.
A nice pull from Outsisters. There's a vicious flat backhand, but there is a slight upwind in that direction now. But rolling out the sideline, giving them good defensive field position. That's a nice swing to get off the sideline. Outsisters pushing Austria back though. And another throw that didn't quite reach the chest of the receiver. Looking for that inside forehand break, but it's covered. So Outsisters have to go backwards. Again, looking very static downfield. But I think Outsisters are deliberately looking to work between the handlers. Nice around break throw. Sails a bit too high. It's reeled in though. Krishnova dumps it back. And shot to the end zone. Not quite in the end zone, but in the pitch. High release backhand. Well defended. It's a great block for Alea Shuchnevic.
Yeah, great defense there, making sure not to get beaten up inside the end zone.
Not quite in the end zone, but in the pitch.
One of the taller players on this team, definitely able to compete with
high release backhand.
Overall
well defended.
Team. And she did a right job because they're still going looking for that disc.
It's a difficult field position for Austria. They do get off the sideline, but pinned back in their end zone. Finally out of the end zone, but stuck on the far sideline. Shot straight into the stack. Sometimes that works out, but on this occasion, Outsisters were wise to it. And they immediately set up their vertical stack. Again, looking to work it amongst the handlers or from cuts off the front of the stack. And a nice high shot to the back of the end zone. And Eliška Šifnerova with the score. And that's half-time for Outsisters.
Yeah, there'll be another chance now for the Austrian coaches
amongst the handlers
have a
or
little talk with their team. The
from
last time
cuts off
they
the front of the stack.
had a pause in the game and got a chance to talk to them, they were able to come out and score straight away. So
high shot to the back of the end zone.
Same here after timeout, when they have a little bit, or after halftime when they have a little bit more time to talk to their team.
So as the players take a break for halftime, so are we. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And straight into net and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn about our cutting-edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
I'm Steph Pazzo, and I must eat.
Sometimes commentator, sometimes food eater.
On my Ultimate travels in 2023, I sampled culinary classics from all across Europe,
Oh, wow.
guided by some of your favorite Ultimate players.
That's the Dutch hospitality for you right there.
I'll give you an insight into the secret spots that only the locals know of.
Are these the best schnitzels in Vienna?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Go find Steph Pazzo on YouTube. Like and subscribe and follow the European Ultimate Must Eat series.
Here we go.
This year, London Invite is bigger than ever, with 8 teams in the Open Division, 8 teams in the Women's Division, and for the first time, a full 8-team Mixed Division.
With 5 World Games teams, USA, Canada, Australia, Germany, France.
As well as the Tokai Super Team, is sure to be the ultimate showcase of the best in the world.
More teams, more streams, more stars, more Ultimate.
More excitement.
You're not going to want to miss London Invite 2025.
Yeah, so we're just joined here for a moment by one of the Austrian coaches. If you want to let us know how you think this first half went and what your team is looking to work on.
We're definitely looking to work on playing against the zone. It's this is not the final roster, so we still have a trial to go, and we're just looking how the players are doing and improving. And yeah, it's more about individual development right now.
And you have, I think it looks like 2 other coaches on the staff with you?
Yeah, we have. Actually, we're just 2 coaches. It's the one with the ketchup hoodie. He already left because he has to play with ketchup now. And the other one is Lawrence. He subs in for us this weekend because I'm also playing for Ketchup Women.
Yeah. So in the second half, you'll be coming out, look to get some improvements. And how do you think yesterday's games went in terms of you've seen some improvements today from what you've seen yesterday?
Unfortunately, I've only seen the last game, and I saw a lot of improvement on the last one compared to what I was told about the first one. So I feel like the girls, they're not that afraid and anxious anymore in the field. They kind of got used to playing against adults, and yeah, they're just giving their best, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. So I'm sure you can give them some advice. You've played a bit in America as well, haven't you?
Yeah,
or
I have.
You've had 1 or 2 seasons over there, so yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to impart some of that wisdom onto them. But we'll let you get back to the game, and best of luck in this game, and best of luck in the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Sorry, I really wasn't sure where to look.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how this would.
So we are back into the action. Second half. Outsisters coming out on offense. And the Austrians throwing a zone of their own at the front at least. Trying to contain Outsisters, but they're very comfortably working it around the back, gaining ground as they do so. That's a nice shot through the cut, but perhaps rushed that throw a little bit.
And they get that turn they're looking for. Yeah, same as last time. Austrians come out and first point after a stoppage, they get what they want. Last point they got to score. This point they come out in defense and they get the turnover. So let's see if their offense has found some fixes.
So what you're telling me is the Austrians need a timeout between every point.
Perhaps that might be the way to go.
Almost a fantastic layout save once again, but Outsisters gifted. Good field position. They immediately get the disc moving. Nice inside forehand. Good work on the force to stop the easy around break. There's another inside forehand. This one sailing a bit high, but Outsisters were wise to it, and they get the first point in the second half.
Bit unfortunate there for the Austrians. I don't think that was the intended receiver. They just had another player on Outsisters had another player following up who just happened to get that disc. So again, they got one turnover and they did get a throw to the end zone that wasn't to the intended receiver. So while they might have conceded the point, again, you could argue that they've created a little bit more pressure in that point than we've seen from some of the previous points. So again, off a stoppage coming out, showing some improvements. So if between now and Euros, every stoppage they have, they can come out and get a little bit of an improvement, then plenty of time to still get to where they want to be by the time they get to Turnava. Starting to pick up the rain. It wasn't raining too much now, but the rain has started to come down now, so let's hope there's no lightning. And again, good practice conditions for these Austrian players.
Yeah, got to get used to playing in unfavorable conditions. Because in those games, the team that can deal with the conditions better almost always comes out on top. Some more confident disc movement from Austria at that point, but that shot was well covered. Outsisters looking for a deep shot of their own. Some good backup cutting from Pankova. Cut streaking to the front of the end zone. Is caught once again. Outsisters scoring upline to the front cone. It's worked well for them earlier in the game, and it's worked well for them there.
Yeah,
they go up 10-1.
Just another point there on the hook. Another one where maybe it didn't hit the intended receiver, but just having those extra players following up, anticipating possibly that someone might miss the disc, or that if they'll catch you can follow up and score. And that's something you definitely like to teach to lots of younger players, is just always presume the disc is going to be alive and always follow up the play. And when I first started, a lot of the time your teammates would complete a pass outside the end zone, your defender would just be watching the hook to see if it was caught or not, and then just following up the play you can get some of those scores. So it's worked out well for them. That one, it didn't end up being a score on the catch, but it was the reason they were able to keep the disc alive, and then they were able to score a couple of passes later. So again, slightly more pressure from the Austrian defense there. They did start generating more mistakes, I guess you would call them, from the Outsisters team, in that they weren't hitting the targeted receiver all the time. So again, always seeing signs of progress.
So the rain continues to get that little bit heavier, which is going to make working the disc between the handlers that little more tricky. This is looking better from Austria though. They worked through the initial zone defense phase from Outsiders at the start of the point, who've now transitioned to match. And the Austrians have adjusted, stacking up. Oh, nice grab under pressure. Doesn't have much to work with downfield though. That's a great cut in the handler space.
Good bosh there.
Yeah, dealt with the contact well. Mia Meister, who got that fantastic layout grab earlier in the game. Oh, an unfortunate drop.
Yeah, unfortunate as you said, and I think I think when Austria can have less handlers in the reset space, it is creating more options for them. I think the Outsisters defense, when they've got 3 handlers, defenders in that area, they're really causing problems or containing the Austrian handlers well. But that time they looked like they had a lot more space to actually get the disc moving.
Oh, and Meister once again with the heads-up play, gets the block on the first pass. This is great field position for Austria. Hand block almost caught.
Yeah, just unfortunate there. They get to just back near the end zone, not able to hold on to it.
Whoa. Meister almost with a point block. But Outsisters able to work the disc. Deep shot from power position. It's somehow reeled in, despite several Austrian defenders in the area. Go with another deep shot, just outside the end zone. And 2 passes later, it is a score. There's some question as to whether that was in. And it is called a goal.
Yeah, got to feel a small bit for the Austrians in that point in particular. It feels like even the 50-50s don't want to work out in their favour. They almost get a chance to get to this back again off a hand block, unable to catch it, and then Outsiders send a hook. It's a contested one, and Outsiders end up getting the 50-50. Not sure of the name of 82, but yeah, she's having a really good game for Austria in this one, and yeah, she's heavily involved in the offense there. So.
Yeah, Mia Meister having a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's just a tough start to the day. I think like I said, the Outsisters team yesterday, they're a bit unfortunate to not be higher up in the bracket. They did essentially lose what would have been basically a game to make the semi-finals when they lost to Swarm. So probably looking to finish off the tournament strong, potentially get a game, maybe not a national rivalry, but a local rivalry game potentially, maybe against East Block later in the day.
So Outsisters go back to the zone, which again the Austrian coaches will be very happy to see, as that's what they're trying to practice this game. And they're managing to complete more passes than they have on previous possessions. And of course, as I say that, they drop it. That's just how commentary goes. Immediate hammer, not quite as the end zone, but good throw. There's good defense from Austria to force Outsisters backwards. And then I'm not sure who the intended receiver was in that throw into the end zone, but the Austrians were wise to it.
Yeah, it looks like the zone is being set up again, so yeah, Austrians going to get a chance to work out of the corner again against the zone.
And these are the sorts of tough positions that, as a coach, you want to have your players practice. And it's one thing doing it in training, but the reps are so much more impactful if you can do it in a real game. So accepted strip call. So again, they're working nicely around the back, but I would like to see some more aggressive downfield shots. There is basically no wind, so having some receivers downfield spread out and hitting them with a hammer would be very much on the cards. But the handlers just aren't looking for it. Almost a bit of a miscommunication turnover there, but well reeled in. So Rajovic on the disc here has been quarterbacking this offense. That throw too low though. Outsisters' patient zone defense getting the turnover once again. Nice juking cut from front of stack. High disc to the back of the end zone. Well read, but bounces out of the hands.
Yeah, looks like
Blankova not quite able to secure the catch.
And now she's getting back from one end of the field back to the other, back deep in the zone again. I think on this near sideline, the number 21 for Austria is doing a really good job of standing in the space to be an option for those potentially more aggressive throws. So maybe if the Austrian handlers can see her, I feel like she's been free the entire point. They just haven't had a real good chance to throw it yet. But her position against the zone to be available for options to spread it are really good.
Nice upfield shot to gain some ground for Austria. Rajovic once again with the disc in her hands, looking to make something happen downfield. She's doing it with her legs right now though. Deep shot goes up. And a fantastic grab there from Santa. Can't quite continue the possession into the end zone though. But promising stuff.
Yeah, just unfortunate there. I think as she threw that, the player was kind of running towards her and she just slightly overthrew her. But I think they'll take a positive away from this in the fact they're forcing the Outsisters team to take a timeout here. So Outsisters probably starting to get a bit frustrated with their offense. And again, this will be another chance for the Austrian coach to have a little chat with his team.
So Austria have done some fantastic stuff out of timeouts and halftime so far this game. We'll see if they can do it again after this short break.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And traded to X and made good.
That was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Here we go.
This year, London Invite is bigger than ever, with 8 teams in the Open Division, 8 teams in the Women's Division, and for the first time, a full 8-team Mixed Division.
With 5 World Games teams, USA, Canada, Australia, Germany, France.
As well as the Tokai Super Team, it's sure to be the ultimate showcase of the best in the world.
More teams, more streams, more stars, more ultimate.
More excitement.
You're not going to want to miss London Invite 2025.
So back out of the timeout. Outsisters looking to just convert this offensive position, and Austria, well, not sure exactly what they've cooked up from the timeout, but will be interesting to see it.
Might be a little bit of a Japanese zone here. They all look like they might start on the halfway line. But yeah,
that would be funny.
Outsisters, yeah, just they called that timeout. I think they were just starting to get a little frustrated that they were failing to score after perhaps finding it somewhat easier earlier in the game. So I'm sure they had a little talk there, talk about things they want to focus on. So I think they're going to come out in this point probably a bit more organised, probably a bit more focused on the throws. And let's see if the Austrian defence can match it.
And it's a bit of a horizontal stack flood play from Outsisters. Good defensive effort from Austria, but well read. And Outsisters get the good field position. Kind of stuck on this sideline though. Thrower looking a little bit isolated. Cut's kind of coming from the front of stack, but the stack's quite far away. Nice up line cut, but bounces out of the hands of Schiffnerova.
Yeah.
So once again, Austria come out of a timeout and they get a block. Eventually. High backhand over the top. Good catch to secure possession. And these three players just working amongst themselves. Deep shot.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're close to getting a handset. I think basically everything that's 50-50 is working out for the Outsisters at the moment.
Yeah, Austria have definitely been unfortunate on a number of occasions with these 50-50s. Petrovichkova was very isolated in the backfield there, and a difficult throw required. Save possession. The hammer over the top once again is available. Schellnegger is wide open on this near side, but the throwers are just never looking at her. I can only imagine that the coaches are just trying to drill this handler-led backfield zone offense and aren't interested in practicing the overheads. We've seen some overheads from Outsisters though.
Throw there, just out of reach. There's good offensive passage by Outsisters. Again, just on the weather condition, the rain is really pouring down now. I probably would not be too fond of throwing hammers in these conditions unless I had gloves. So perhaps that's a bit of the reason we're not seeing so many of these overheads. But I think even in this situation, the backhand hook. Again, I keep mentioning number 21 on this near sideline, just always in a ton of space.
So a simultaneous catch. Offense maintains possession. They don't get to walk it to the front of the end zone. Although I like the intent. Once again, Schellnegger, number 21, wide open on this near sideline, and there is the slippery disc in the rain, dropped catch. Bit of a stoppage though. Not sure what happened there, but presumably the disc will stay where it is and the players will reposition. And exactly the same throw gets thrown anyway. Oh, scuba fake, you love to see it. And an easy pop into the end zone. And that's the 12th point for Outsisters.
Yeah, that was a pretty long point. Timeout, multiple turnovers. Quick mention for the Outsisters. I know I mentioned last year it's at the summer tour that all their games were losses and they were blowouts. But if you actually looked at all the teams they played, I believe every team at that tournament except Outsisters actually did go on to play at EUCF. So perhaps they just had a tough schedule last year, and I think you can definitely see at times in this game they're showing moments where they're looking really good, especially in these conditions. And like I said, I feel like they're a pretty athletic team, so I haven't seen them play that much before, and maybe this is one of their early seasons. So I think if they can keep improving, maybe they're going to put themselves in with a chance of being closer to making it to EUCF this year. So maybe one to watch in the women's division. I think it's there's a lot of teams that in the women's division that are maybe going to say, hey, we could possibly get in this year now that teams have a better idea how the system works. Because I think last year maybe there was a couple of shock results in the system where people didn't realize how much a certain win or a certain loss might have hurt them. But anyone with a coach or a leadership who's kind of paid attention to that should be able to pay a bit more attention to the times where they need to really deliver some results on field, and perhaps the times where it's not so bad if they have an event where they're just using it more for practice.
Well, there's also Division 2 this year. Got to remember that it's not just the top 16 in each division that can qualify for a EUCF event. The next 8 teams can go to Division 2, which will be on the weekend before Division 1, later in the year. Oh, and a hand block.
Yeah, just on that, when you're turning around, giving the backhand, most people would try and throw a flick there, but I think most players would feel more confident throwing the backhand, and it's something I always teach my players is try to practice throwing short flicks.
Austria get it straight back though, and give it straight back. There will be a discussion. Yeah, short flicks or offhand backhands.
Yeah, they're two very important throws, and I would say maybe the offhand backhand is probably easier to actually learn and get good at.
I agree. Oh, nice deep shot. And yes, layout for the stream. Not quite able to reel it in on this occasion, but I love the effort.
Yeah, just the fact showing you're willing to make those layouts, putting yourself in those situations that when the disc is a bit closer in future, you will be able to get there.
Pretty good layout conditions today as well. Going to get some nice slides. That disc is out the far sideline though.
Yeah, potentially a short field turnover. I think the coach was shouting at the sideline to bring it up, but I think she was just happy to play it from where it was. Maybe it wasn't too far out, but another turnover.
High stall. That was a stall 9 throw, but Outsisters maintain possession, work it to that far side. Oh, good layout to save possession. The clap catch layout is risky. That's almost another 50-50 that goes the way of Outsisters. I'm not sure what happened on that drop. The disc didn't really look like it had any spin on it. That disc too high for Austria, a foul call.
Yeah, I think she was saying she got clipped a bit on the ankle as she was making the upline, and that perhaps she might have caught the initial one or might have had a better chance of getting the second bid. So I think it depends on which one of those she's claiming, but it's one of those tricky ones when you're on the other team. You're thinking, oh, you weren't getting it, but I think if you're the player on offense, you're the only one who really knows if you can get it. So, or even just having a bid, even if it's more likely the other team gets it, I think just saying I had a chance to make a play on the disc is usually enough reason to get a call. But I find usually if you're on the sideline, it's usually one of the ones that gets a bit more pushback where people are thinking, oh, that's not a great call. But I think it was a fair call if she feels she had any chance to get a bid on that disc. She was free up line.
And she was not that far away from getting the second effort. So Austria maintain possession. go to the far side. Some players streaking downfield, but no one's really in a good position to throw those deep shots.
Nice try.
Enjoying these expansive swing passes though. Floaty one, some bodies underneath it, but Outsisters read it so much better. Pretty comfortable block in the end.
Yeah, just tough to hold on to that inside flick in these conditions. It really is. These really are difficult conditions to play in.
Yeah, even with the gloves.
Yeah, throwing flicks in these conditions especially, and I would understand if there was no more overheads for the rest of this game.
Roof stoppage for some shoelace admin. We're back underway. And timeout after the centering pass.
Yeah, another timeout there by the Outsisters. I think they just want to figure out a bit of their offense. I want to give a quick shout out to their jerseys as well. I rarely see a jersey that just basically has a team's name and their numbers, and they're probably one of the nicer plain jerseys I've seen in a while. So shout out to the graphic designer, whoever came up with their jerseys.
So once again, we'll take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back real soon.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And traded to X and made good.
That was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Search for Hive Ultimate on YouTube to learn about our cutting edge strategies and to see analysis of world-class teams. To find out what Hive can do for your team, head over to our Patreon page where you can gain access to our exclusive drills and session plans and to join our worldwide community of coaches. Get ahead of the curve with Hive Ultimate.
I'm Steph Pazzo, and I must eat.
Sometimes commentator, sometimes food eater.
On my Ultimate travels in 2023, I sampled culinary classics from all across Europe.
Oh, wow.
Guided by some of your favorite Ultimate players.
That's the Dutch hospitality for you right there.
I'll give you an insight into the secret spots that only the locals know of.
Are these the best schnitzels in Vienna?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Go find Steph Pazzo on YouTube. Like and subscribe and follow the European Ultimate Must-Eat series.
So about to get started out of this timeout. Looks like a pretty standard vertical stack offense once again from Outsisters. But we were just having a quick discussion amongst ourselves here in the booth during the timeout about gloves in these conditions. There is a couple players out there for Outsisters with gloves. Not helping on that occasion. So John, what are your thoughts?
I can't understand how anyone who has ever tried playing the sport in gloves would decide to not wear gloves, and I'm talking about in any conditions. In fact, I find they help me more in dry conditions. So yeah, there's certain brands I prefer more, but maybe if certain brands were to email ULTI.TV, we would give them a shout out. But I can't understand how anyone could play without gloves as someone who plays with them.
Well, I can't say I share that opinion, but ooh, that was close to being pretty vicious contact. Fortunately, everyone's okay. And the turnover will stand. It was a brave bid.
Good to see it as well in these conditions, even though there's an 11-point difference in the game. Seeing bids like that, teams are still putting in the effort, fighting for every point.
A tough position for Outsisters, but they do find a swing pass to the center and continue to the far side. That pass just a bit too far though, and both teams being plagued with these small throwing errors.
Yeah, I think the last 3 turnovers by Outsisters have all involved players wearing gloves, so it probably wasn't the best time for me to shout out gloves and try and explain my point, but...
Great attempt on the layout catch, but it just was too far again.
Yeah, I think that player didn't have gloves, so it's all good. The curse has been lifted now.
Good to see Austria doing at least an attempt of surrounding this vertical stack. There's not really any cuts coming from the stack though, so Outsisters with some nice flow down the far side. That's another drop from the gloves.
Yeah.
This really is not the best game to showcase.
Yeah, I think it's
gloves.
for what it's worth. I'm unsure how much I would argue they help with the catching side of the game. I think most people would say that, but for me, throwing, I would say, is where I really find the benefit. In fact, if you actually wear gloves that are too small for you, sometimes the gap between your thumb and your index finger, it kind of just adds in an extra, I don't know how to describe it, but that gap when you open your hand between your thumb and your index finger, the disc doesn't actually come in the whole way into your grip before you catch it. So I like to wear them a size or two actually too big for me, and I find that works best for me. So if you're finding gloves aren't work for you, just go a size bigger. Maybe that's your problem.
Interesting. It's been a long time since I played in gloves, so... another unfortunate drop for Austria.
Yeah, when the conditions are this bad, it's even hard to know how much even gloves will help. Sometimes then when it gets so wet, they can just feel nasty on your hands. But
pick downfield. Yeah, this point and the last few points have become just a bit of a grind for both teams, battling the conditions.
yeah, it's been the Outsisters D-line out to both times. So I guess from an Austrian point of view, your O-line is getting some real hardcore reps in here, absolute grinding points. Although maybe this is potentially a D-line given how long the last point went with their O-line.
Continuing to work it in the backfield. High back into the break side, and in these conditions, one-handed catches like that are not the way to go. Everything has to be a clap catch now. I love the hustle. Immediate deep shot.
Pretty nice flick in these conditions without gloves to get to this that far. I imagine that, yeah, without gloves in this, even with gloves to get it that far, throw that flick that distance is not that easy. And unlucky for the Austrian receiver. She did a good job to get in front of her defender and get a hand on that disc, just not able to hold on to it on the sideline.
It's another overthrow in the backfield for Outsisters. Oh, that was a nice throw though. Lots of touch. Not followed up though.
Yeah, the conditions just really starting to impact now. Obviously, this has been a slightly longer point as well. Players are probably getting a bit tired, but this is just a tough point all around. So.
Pick downfield. The cutting discipline has dropped a little bit from Outsisters. Oh, nice throw to the front of stack though. Good effort to try and reel it in, but it's just another slight overthrow. All these passes just centimeters away from being reeled in. Nice high flick to find a receiver on the break side.
Yeah, I've liked some of them, those higher released outside in flicks. It looks every time when she's winding up to throw them that the defender is actually in the lane, but she's throwing them over the defenders, and I think enough players don't use those throws to exploit poaches.
Great, great shot to the end zone, and a slightly comical follow-up as the players get a little bit tangled up.
I think the players just wanted to embrace and say to each other, it's over, like Frodo and Sam at the end of Lord of the Rings. That was an absolute mammoth point. I think both players like, thank you for holding on to that. I don't know if I could have got up and played this anymore in this point. I think both sets of players probably just happy to get off the line after that one. But again, yeah, like we said, it's the conditions are really tough. First game of the day, tiring, and yeah, it's not going to get much easier for these two teams after. They're going to be on again next, maybe probably not the next round, but the round after, and the loser of this game will I believe you've said they will be running into East Block. So
yep,
unless we get one of the greatest comebacks in Ultimate history, I think it's not going to get much easier for this Austrian team in the next one. But I also think they'll be looking forward to the idea of getting to play one of the top teams in Europe. That's the most important thing for them, is quality of opposition, knowing that when you play against the teams at this level, including Outsisters, most mistakes you make are going to get punished, and that's just the best learning process you can have for a junior team. If they were coming here and winning every game, it might just give them a false sense of confidence. So nothing like a couple losses early in the season to say, hey, this is where we are and this is what we need to work on.
So first throw turnover for Austria after Outsisterz defense had set up. And high shot to the end zone, brought in. One pass is all it took on that occasion.
And let's get all those players that were on that last mammoth point back on the field now after a 5-second break. But that was a really nice throw in these conditions to put it over defenders into the back corner. Excellent throw by the Outsisters player there. And yeah, it does look like a number of those players that were on that mammoth point a few minutes ago are making their way back onto the field here. So let's see if it'll be another mammoth point, or maybe we'll get a slightly quicker one this time. It's potentially I'm not sure if it's maybe a timeout, is it? It could be a...
I don't think either team called timeout. I think they're just... Austria
just a bit tired.
Taking the time walking to the line.
Yeah, a bit tired from that point. They had 30 seconds ago, so taking all the time they can. This would be... Yeah, the score's 14-1, so Outsisters would be looking to score this one to finish it up. Austrians will be hoping they can extend it a little bit longer.
So the rain continues to come down a little bit harder as Austria brick the pull. Zone from Outsisters. Some good movement in the backfield. Always love to see teams attacking from behind the disc against the zone, trying to break through that first line of defense with a catch and a pivot through it.
Yeah, I think what we need is one or two of the deeper players on the Austrian line to just get a little bit closer. I don't think there is much of an option as they might feel like they are in these conditions, and that's something you get used to with more experience in the conditions, realizing that suddenly players who can hit you where you're standing aren't able to hit you.
Oh, but this just bounced off the chest. And Austria get it straight back. Nice little swing pass through the cup. High forehand. It's floating, but never comes back in.
Yeah, I thought at the start at that point she looked like she wanted to boost the backhand hook deep.
A deep shot from Outsisters, but that disc was way too blady. Maybe slipped in the hand.
Yeah, perhaps it will be another one of these mammoth points. I would argue that the end zone the Austrians are scoring into might be the slightly harder one to score into these conditions. So sometimes in points like this, I like to say the team playing in the slightly tougher conditions should be the one feeling a bit happier that they were able to prevent the other team. It's not really that windy though, so I don't think it makes a big difference. But
now the Austrians are away. They've made it past the first line of defense, but not quite able to continue it. Deep shot goes up, down that far sideline, and a fantastic grab. And Austria get their second point of the game.
yeah, I thought they missed their opportunity there at 1 second where they slowed down on the flow, but I guess they know their team better than I do in the sense that they slow it down, give it to someone who can put a throw like that, and then she just puts it right in the front corner of the end zone. Not an easy throw on that sideline, not an easy throw in these conditions. And yeah, maybe they need to try and expand and get a couple more, get this player on the disc a bit more and a couple more of those throws, because if you can do it in these conditions and put it into that small of a window, I think that's someone who can have a lot of potential to cause some problems for other teams at juniors in a couple of months.
Yeah, both scores from this Austrian U20 women's team coming from deep shots against the zone.
Yeah, as we come here and we're getting notes for our next game. I believe the next game is on this field is going to be Fui and Siebenschwaben. So let's see if Austrians managed to extend the game here in the last one. So I think they're going to be looking now to get one more. That was it's the first time in a while where we've seen them get the disc really going and hit some really good throws, and I think they're going to be wanting to look to get another opportunity to get one more here. They haven't gotten a break yet, so this is their last chance in this game to get a break.
Yeah, very much playing for pride at this point. Immediate deep shot from Outsisters. Ever so slightly too far. Would have loved to see a layout attempt on that.
Yeah, that was
got to do it for the stream.
Yeah, that was a really nice throw as well. Again, the conditions are very challenging, so that flick was pretty good. And again, like you said, I think a potential bid, but I think some players maybe they're saying it's 14-2. I'm not feeling it. Potentially last point of the game. I don't want to do it. Maybe on universe points she might be. But run through D there by the Outsisters.
Yeah, short field to work with. Nothing available in the end zone. Goes backwards straight away. And as so often happens, a backwards pass leads into a yard-gaining forwards pass. Wide open receiver in the end zone. And Outsisters to get the job done. 15-2 in the end.
Yeah, really, really impressive result for Outsisters. I believe that's the biggest margin anyone has biggest scoreline anyone's put up against this Austrian team so far. And like I said, I think they could be ones to watch out for this season if they manage to get a bit more reps in and not have such a tough schedule. But for the Austrian under-20s, again, they have a game on the stream now in really challenging conditions against a good team. They're going to be able to look back at this game, learn a lot from it, and they have plenty, like this. Their coach said at halftime, they have not even made their final selections yet. So they're going to have lots of time to improve, and yeah, it'll be good for them to have this game on the stream and take away a lot from it. So we wish them the best of luck at the rest of the season and in Turnava.
Yeah, excited to see how both these teams do in the rest of the season. But for now, we will move over to an open division round. That'll come up in just a few minutes. So grab a drink, grab a snack, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, Ultimate.
ULTI.TV.
Just can't stop thinking about